Good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world. My name is Doug Brunke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Chamber, zooming in today from Scottsdale, Arizona. Um, I, I think this topic is really critical for exporters because in every country, there are organizations that can be incredibly valuable for your growth. Quite honestly, when you think about and when I think about organizations like JETRO and COTRA and the U.S. Commercial Service, these are homers, or what we call a homer. They're rooting for the home team, right? The U.S. Commercial Service wants American companies to succeed, and so they're not totally fair, but they are, all of them, usually really good at what they do and really helpful. And they can be very helpful and usually are for companies that are foreign companies coming in. So if you're an exporter getting into Ghana, as an example, there are organizations other than Global Chamber Accra that can be very valuable in supporting connections and certifications and other regulations at the country level, at the regional level, at the city level, that can be very important. So we highly recommend you get involved on all those levels. And certainly someone like Ruby Golo, who is our executive director in Accra, Ghana, can be very helpful to help steer you in different directions. So the purpose of today is to talk about not just Ghana, but more holistically about Africa and in general, how best to work with these organizations from their perspective and from an exporter's perspective. Excuse me. And we're very fortunate to have Kuntal Warwick Shah leading that conversation today, and I'm going to turn it over to her now. Kuntal is a very special person within the Global Chamber family because she started Global Chamber San Diego. It was one of the first chapters that we had at Global Chamber when we started 7 years ago. I think probably that was about 6 years ago. So we took about a year to kind of figure things out, and then we started opening up to have leaders around the world run chapters for Global Chamber. And I actually went to the launch in San Diego, and it was very exciting because, number one, it was about 2 blocks from my uncle's place in downtown San Diego, so a very urban area, and it was in a location where we had speakers from Toronto and Tokyo and I think one other place, maybe Chicago.
I think London, maybe London.
London, okay.
Yeah.
And each of the Global Chamber people were on the board or up on a screen. And so this was 7 years ago, which now Zoom is like, it happens all the time, right? But being in a room like that with all these screens really struck me like, wow, this is amazing. This global idea and getting really talented people who know what's going on in these different places together and be supportive of each other. It made me think that, wow, Global Chamber could be successful. And so I'm very happy, Kuntal, that you had the vision to pull that together like you did. Thank you for pulling together Global Chamber San Diego, and congratulations on all the work that you've done in the interim, including working with CITD and the other activities that you do to help exporters and other companies be successful. Thanks for putting together today's program, and we look forward to hearing more.
Thank you, Doug. Wow, that's such, high praise. I'm not sure that it's all deserved, but I appreciate it. Yes, I think this is a really exciting topic, and I'm so much looking forward to our speakers. So this is a 2-part series. Today, we're going to be focusing, as Doug mentioned, on Ghana and the UK. Next week, we will be focusing on Australia and Southeast Asia. So I think we really wanted to focus in on emerging markets, at least from a US perspective, I will admit. So as Doug mentioned, I'm Kuntal Warwick. I'm CEO of KSW Consulting. We're a global communications, marketing, and strategic partnerships company, but I work very much across the board with government organizations like SBDC and various trade organizations as well. So over the last few years, I'll just share with you a little bit the inspiration for this session. So over the last few years, I've had the chance to work with a few trade and investment organizations in Southern California. And I just, they're doing such interesting things, as Doug mentioned. They are, of course, promoting their regions, but there are so many resources that they do provide. And I think it would be really good for particularly small and medium-sized businesses to understand these resources as they're expanding internationally. Before we get to the introductions, I just wanted to mention just a few interesting facts, at least here from home in the United States. So according to the SBA, small businesses account for approximately 26% of all US exports. So that's $341 billion, and approximately 96% of all exporters. Small businesses also contribute significantly to innovation in the US, producing 14 times more patents than larger businesses and employing nearly 40% of America's scientists and engineers. So they're really essential to job creation and a vibrant workforce. But among the barriers to global market entry include adequate protection of IP, export financing, bureaucratic processes and regulations, no perceived demand abroad, and lack of information or awareness of services that can help them. And so that's why we're having this session today. That's where we're beginning, is to get more information and hopefully opportunities out there as well. So with that, I want to introduce our panel, and then I will let each of them further introduce themselves and their organizations and what they do. So Agnes, now Agnes, please correct my pronunciation. Agnes Gifty Adjei-Sam, who is director of, is that correct?
Correct, very correct. Yes.
Okay, good, thank you. Who's director of market promotion at the Ghana Export Promotion Authority. Ferbie Kuuji, who is a development executive at Resources from Africa. Stephen Gray, who is from the West Africa, he's the West Africa regional representative for UK Export Finance. And then Farard Darver, who is the founder and CEO of Healthcare International Research, based, I believe, out of the UK. Is that correct, Farad? Okay, all right, great. So what I'd love to do is if we can start with Agnes and Stephen to talk a little bit about their organizations and how they help not only businesses in their regions, but businesses that are looking to enter into Ghana. And then we can go to Ferbie and Farard to really talk about their experiences, their businesses, and how they've also expanded. So Agnes, do you want to start off?
Yes, I don't mind at all. So
okay, perfect.
So good afternoon from Ghana. It's very warm in here this morning or this afternoon. And then, so I bring you very warm greetings from my Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Efua Sabi Asari. And Ghana Export Promotion Authority is very happy to be part of this event. And so, as our name goes, Ghana Export Promotion Authority, we are about 52 years old, and then we are getting to 53 this year. We are an agency of the Ministry of Trade and Industry in Ghana, and our mandate is to facilitate the development and promotion of export from Ghana. In so doing, we also look for partners abroad who want to come to Ghana and establish here to be able to also export. And so at the last, or the recently held Fruit Logistica in Berlin, we found out that there were a lot of very interested investors who want to come to Ghana, establish here to be able to also export out of Ghana. So even though our main focus is to help to expand Ghana's export base, in doing our work, we also look for a lot of investors who are interested in export, who are interested in export opportunities, to work with them so that they can also, export out of Ghana. We work in 4 main areas. The first is product development. So what we do is that we look for products with export potential and we develop them for the export market. Here again, we have a number of stakeholders and a number of partners, both local and international, that we work with. In fact, the USAID is one of our key partners in a lot of the things that we do. We have worked a lot with the USAID in doing a lot of programs in the past and even present. We also do market access. And so after helping to develop the products, we need to look for markets for them. And so we look for market destinations for our products. And our key markets are in the EU and then ECOWAS. And now we are looking at the aftermarket. There is the Africa Continental Free Trade Market. It is a big market. And so we are also looking for investors to work with to be able to assess the export market. And then after market development and promotion, we do capacity building. The small exporters who come to us, they need to understand export marketing. So we build their capacity to understand, what they have to do. The fourth one is to give information on markets. So here again, we use a lot of tools, ITCs, that's the International Trade Center, their market analysis tools. We use tools from FA Stats, all kinds of tools to be able to get information to give to our clients who come here. And so when you go to our website, we have a site for importers and exporters. First of all, for Ghanaians looking to take their products outside of Ghana, and also for importers looking to come to Ghana to know and understand our trends. So we have the importer section, then the exporter section on our website. And then if you look at the business of export promotion, there's a long chain, it's from product development to the market. And so what we do is to kind of build an activity of consensus. We invite all persons involved in export promotion. We hold meetings with them, look at areas of collaboration. And as I spoke to you before the program started, we work closely with the Ghana Investment Promotion Authority, Ghana Free Zones Authority, with our foreign missions, those in Ghana and our own missions and foreign organizations. We try to form a consensus building so that we can do one chain of work. And just last week, we hosted the World Trade Promotion Organizations Conference, WTPO, in Ghana here. And as part of the program, we had a breakfast meeting for our partners, from our foreign partners. So we had people from all over the world coming to work with us and talk with us to see areas of collaboration, because we do understand that our export business is not centered in Ghana alone. We need to build strong partnerships. And so in a nutshell, this is what we do. And we believe that going forward, there'll be still a lot of areas we can talk together. So these are my opening remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Agnes. Thank you. And I would ask if we could keep to just maybe about 60 seconds, and then we'll get into a lot of questions as well. So, but thank you very much, Agnes. I'm looking forward to asking some follow-up questions. So Stephen, would love to hear a little bit about what you do and your office.
Thank you very much, Chantal, and I'll keep to your 60 seconds. So my name is Stephen Gray. I'm the regional head for UK Export Finance, covering 15 countries in West Africa. UK Export Finance is the UK government's export credit agency, whose mission is to ensure that no viable export from the UK fails through lack of access to insurance or finance, but operating at no net cost to the taxpayer. So our role is very much focused on getting companies from the UK to enter the markets across Africa. And we do that by offering credit guarantees and insurance products to allow them to trade confidently with the continent, but at the same time allow African buyers to buy quality goods and services, trusted quality goods and services from the UK. Back to you, Kunta.
Oh, thank you. Farard, if you could please go ahead and introduce yourself and your company.
Sure. My name is Farard Darver. I'm the founder and CEO of Healthcare International Research. And very simply, Healthcare International Research is a company that manufactures and distributes the first legally registered CBD-based cosmetic topical products in the UK and Europe. And that has allowed us to penetrate markets globally that other people in this area can't. It's a a fast-growing business, as anyone that knows, with regards to cannabis or cannabinoids. However, our regulatory compliance means that when we launched in October last year, just in the UK, we're now selling throughout Europe, America, India, and have just opened up to South Africa and Mexico. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I'm extremely happy that you said how long we have, because the number one thing I always ask, reference Parkinson's law, is, however long it takes is the time you're going to fill. So you said 60 seconds. There you go.
Thank you. Not to cut anybody off, but I know that we're going to have a really great conversation. So, but thank you very much. Ferbie, over to you. Oh, I think you may be on mute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, please. So my name is Ferbie from Resources from Africa. And basically what I do mostly is agri-commodity, exports of agri-commodities such as cocoa peat, sesame, charcoal, raw cashew nuts, timber and wood products as well. So I export to Vietnam, India, China. I'm looking forward to exporting to Europe and then North America as well. Basically, this is what I do.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So I'd love, yes. I'm sorry if did you want to add anything else, Ferbie?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not
okay.
yet.
All right. So I'd love to just kick this off with Agnes and Stephen, just to kind of have an understanding of, particularly for companies that are looking to come into Ghana, what kinds of resources, what kind of resources are you able to provide to those companies? And two, can you give us some insight into the industries that are gaining traction or that you see as growth industries over the next few years?
Right, so who starts?
Agnes, you can start.
So thank you, and thank you for talking. Sorry for talking so much the first time.
No problem. No problem.
Yes, and as I said in my opening remarks, our work primarily is to export products out of Ghana, but we do work with people who want to come into Ghana to export. And so what we do is that together with the GIPC, that's the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, and the Ghana Free Zones Authority, we provide them with information on the Ghanaian terrain. Where to get what, the conditions that prevail here, so that they can easily assimilate into our trade system. And then what I see coming up recently is the pharmaceutical industry and then the automotive industry. In the last couple of years, we have seen a lot of people in this industry coming to establish in Ghana. And I think IT as well. So they are coming to Ghana, they are looking for local partners and partnering with them to establish industries in IT, that's for the services sector, and also pharmaceuticals and the automobile industry. So this is really going on. And then when it comes to manufacturing, one area is in the processing of cocoa, cocoa products, like chocolates and then other things. We are lately seeing a lot of people showing interest, coming to us to see how best they could partner with Ghanaians or to establish their own chocolate manufacturing companies or automotives and or pharmaceutical industry. So these are some of the key areas that you find interest in the last couple of years. Yeah.
Interesting, very interesting. And I don't know if you're able to speak at all to the regulatory side of things. So, what kind of, obviously it differs industry by industry with that understanding, but what kind of regulatory information can you provide to us? Just taking, for example, let's say pharma or automotive, or even agricultural products. Are there things that you can share just top of mind that people should be really aware of when they're considering Ghana?
Okay. As I said, there are other institutions that do that as a full time. But first of all, we look at the kind of investment you want to do. Is it joint or is it something you want to do on your own? If it is joint and there is a ceiling and I can't provide it now, maybe in the course of time, I can provide to you how much money you need to put in to be able to establish your own businesses. If you also want to do joint partnerships, there's also an amount of money that are needed. So what we do is also to link you to, if, for example, you want to establish a factory, there are things like you may need land. And so under the Free Zones Authority, they have land banks. You know, there are already places there that you can just go and plug into. You know, you go to them, there are processes you have to go through, and then you can also acquire a place at the Free Zones Authority to establish there. And there are issues to do with environmental, you know, you want to set up a factory. We have a contact at all these places. We link you up with the right people to be able to help you understand the environmental issues. When it comes to immigration and all that, and the Ghana Investment Promotion Center is able to help you, you know, to understand immigration issues like the kind of workers you have to bring and all that. So we have a list of regulations that you need to comply with. But it is only when it is directly to do with exports that we do the direct hand-holding. And for example, if it is to do with the standards required for your product, then we can do direct hand-holding. But with the others like immigration, what we do is to give you the references or the right people to go to be able to understand our regulations.
Okay, great. And actually, so you, and by the way, I should mention, please use the chat area if you do have any questions. We will try to get to all of your questions towards the end. We will have about 15 minutes. So please feel free to add any questions or comments or insights. So this is a nice segue, Agnes, to Stephen, actually, because as you mentioned that, you know, the regulations really somewhat depend on the kind of investment that somebody might want to make into Ghana. And so I think, Stephen, you know, it's a good sort of lob over to you to share with us how you work with companies to help in terms of financing. And you may be on mute. Oh, no, you're not.
Thanks. Before I do that, I just want to add if you want a sustainable business in Ghana or anywhere else in Africa for that matter, you need to create relationships with local partners, because sustainable businesses are developed through shared prosperity, not just coming in for the single transaction. So anybody looking to come into Africa should invest time to build relationships, because it's those relationships the transactions will come out from. In terms of UK Export Finance, the support they provide, our support is around financing mechanisms to allow people to buy capital goods or services from the UK. And we do that by providing credit guarantees to banks who are willing to lend to the transaction. Some of the products that we offer include credit risk insurance, so that if a UK exporter is offering credit terms to a Ghanaian buyer or an African buyer, then we can cover the risk of non-payments for that. But equally, we can also provide guarantees to help financing of loans for the African buyers, so that they can, so suppliers can offer that as a supplier financing solution that is attractive to the buyers in Africa, both sovereign and private sector, so that they can afford to buy those goods, but schedule the repayment of the debt over a longer period of time. Obviously, that requires the borrowers to be creditworthy, and an area that I encourage many companies, SMEs in particular, is to look at their corporate governance and make sure that their financials, their audited financials, are strong and robust so that they can be seen as a good credit risk.
Okay.
Over to you.
Thank you. And so are there, so you're helping primarily UK companies to enter into Ghana, and how much do you work with SMEs out of the UK?
So it's not just British companies. As UK Export Finance, our products are flexible to the point that you could have an American company leading on a transaction. We have a number of transactions where we see companies from the Middle East or companies from Brazil or Europe. But because they're bringing in UK content, that is what we're interested in supporting, the export of UK content, not who's leading on a transaction. And to give you a sense of the amount of work that's in the last 4 years since I've been doing this role that we've supported in West Africa, it is over £2 billion. Most of that is with sovereigns, but we have been doing increasingly work in the SME sector. And what we tend to find is that African SMEs are now moving their sights away from Southeast Asia for some of the more capital intensive to buy from the UK or elsewhere. Our guarantees give the confidence to banks to lend to an African SME who's already creditworthy. But in the event of if they default on the repayments of that loan, those banks can turn to the British government and call on the guarantee that we've issued. Obviously, we charge for those a premium for those guarantees, but it means that the credit risk and the pricing of that loan is not based on the SME in Africa, but it's based on the UK government's credit policy.
Got it. Okay. Again, please ask your questions. The forum is open for sure, and we will certainly get to them towards the end. So thank you very much, Stephen. That's very helpful. So now moving on over to Farard, if you would like to share a little bit about your experiences, because we definitely want to hear from businesses who may have used some of these resources or other resources that really helped the export process. And Farard, I'm not sure if you mentioned if you've expanded into Africa as well or into Ghana specifically, but if you have, we'd certainly like to hear about that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chantal. So to start off with, no, I haven't availed of any export services yet, but that's just because what's happening to the company is happening so quickly. In fact, I've had to pull back and put the brakes on. And the reason why simply comes down to a couple of things. If I just kind of start with of how I've got to this stage, because it is a little unique in regards to this. I mean, the cannabis industry and the CBD industry is absolutely massive. It's one of the fastest growing industries in the world. It was one of the biggest during COVID that grew because people turned to more natural alternative medicines, and specifically within inside the fact that there was a deregulation of cannabidiol, which is a particular ingredient in the hemp plants, a particular chemical by the United Nations that basically it took it off as being a drug. They realized it wasn't. It's an ingredient, and it's comes from specifically the plant. What that did is it opened up a lot of people that could realize this and get it out there. And what a lot of companies did was they grew it, they extracted the oil, they stuck it into any generic paste or bar, and they flung it out on the market, and it didn't have anything to support it. While that was happening, I saw that was happening, but then realized that wouldn't last. And what happened was the bubble burst. A lot of money, a lot of companies were cash burning, and they basically got to a stage where, okay, we know it's great, but you can't just stick it into everything and anything. And that was seen with inside the likes of Mexico, who opened their doors to it and then suddenly closed them when they realised that there was more stringent measures on a chocolate bar than there were inside this sudden thing called CBD, and people were ingesting it, all that kind of stuff. So what I actually did was I saw this and I realized that regulatory compliance was going to be the only way that actually this is going to survive. So I basically I did a lot of research into finding out exactly where this came from and how it did. And not many people realize actually that the healing effects of the hemp plant, specifically with cannabidiol, CBD as everyone knows it, actually originates from Czechoslovakia. In 1955, a guy called Professor Janka Blake first kind of established the healing effects. And about 4 years later, he, along with some of his colleagues, Professor Frank Satnavi being one of them, basically were able to kind of quantify what cannabidiol was. And about 4 years later, Professor Ralph Meshulam in Israel came to the same conclusion. So what I did is I actually went to the source in Czechoslovakia and worked with Czech scientists and Czech formulators. So the products that we have are actually based on that 60 years of scientific research. And that's what's allowed us to submit a dossier to therefore get it regulatory compliant and run it as a topical through the cosmetic channel, which is what we did. And we were the first to do that years ago. And the only reason why we're quite new is because we didn't want to release the products until literally just kind of beginning of last year, because we wanted our regulatory compliance to be solid, so that we could actually not just start from the UK, but actually grow from UK and then go like left and right, east and west straight away. So we did. So within a matter of months, we were registered and selling inside the US, registered and selling inside India, and we were kind of growing from there. So the regulatory compliance is what has put us above everyone else with regards to the fact we can get in to specific countries. And actually, it's funny you mentioned about Ghana, because there's only 5 African countries that actually allow CBD, because a lot of whilst it's been deregularized to not be a drug for the United Nations, not everyone has followed suit. Some are more progressive than others. And actually, Eswatini, Ghana, Lesotho, South Africa, and Zimbabwe are the only countries in Africa that actually allow this. Others are following suit, but it's actually really interesting what Stephen said, because what I specifically do and what we as a company look for is nothing more than partnerships. We have a fantastic product based in skincare and kind of alleviating muscle and ache pains, and all you got to do is rub a cream on the specific muscle or joint that hurts, and it alleviates the pain. With the opioid crisis that's happening, the dependence on heavy opioids, the fact that just about 2 weeks ago in the UK, big headline, 1 in 4 people suffer with chronic pain, and we have something that, because of its science, because of its backing, because of the fact that we've got it through the cosmetic route, you can rub a cream on, and the fact that we are able to, through our own understanding of how CBD and the human endocannabinoid system work together, we can alleviate that kind of muscle and ache and that pain, etc. So we've got this fantastic product. It's very natural. It's not chemically induced. And there are countries that are now learning a little bit more about CBD as it grows. And we're looking at just trying to get this out to as many people who require it as possible, because, the one thing that binds people together, and it doesn't matter about your color, your creed, your race, your background, pain and skin issues is something that binds a golden thread through. It breaks down all barriers. It doesn't matter who you are and where you're from. People do suffer from this. So we've got quite a unique product that sits there and allows us to get out. So what we are doing is linking in to these specific demographics in countries through local relationships, local partners, to actually get it out there. And once we, and a lot of the time we do have a door shoved in our face where they go, no, not interested in that. That's cannabis, etc., etc. When you actually start the conversation and realize it's not, it's just a specific particular ingredient. If anyone has ever taken a heavy painkiller such as cocodamol or diclofenac, that's from the same plant that makes heroin. But I wouldn't suggest anyone who takes that is a heroin addict. So it's just, once you get that educational piece and they realize and they understand the legitimacy of a British company having the regulatory compliance and getting it out there, it actually allows us to create our kind of global growth that we've experienced only within, it's within a year. We launched this only in Q3 last year, and already now sit of 3 or 5 continents selling, and the other 2 soon coming to fruition. So it's been a massive learning curve, and it's something that things like we're doing here specifically, with the connections of that we have with Ghana, with Agnes, it really kind of helps by doing this.
Well, so to that end, you mentioned two things. Of course, you're already exporting, and it sounds like you're off to the races, right after launch. And so, at one, I'd love to know, where are your top export destinations? And then the second thing is, you mentioned partnerships. And so give us a sense of what type of partnership you're talking about. Is it a product partnership? Is it a co-branding partnership? On what level are we discussing in terms of partnership? So I'd love to learn a little bit more, and then we're going to hear from I'm sorry, Ferbie. Yes, Ferbie.
Yeah, sure, no problems. To answer your first question, so at the moment, the UK and Europe is our biggest, and that's just because we're based here. So our marketing, everything's all driven towards that way. USA and India will be the big ones. USA we see as being our biggest one, just because it's a market that's already matured within the industry. But India is actually a bit of a sleeping giant. We recently signed a deal with Nykaa, the biggest cosmetic retailer, that just IPO'd for about $7 billion. So by having them and having the ability to actually link into Nykaa and sell on their because they're very much internet based, whilst a good 70% of what they do is online e-commerce. They have some shops, but it's mainly that. So we see the initial kind of America will be where, because everyone knows it, but India is coming around, and that will be our largest one at the moment. But you see, the thing is, it all really changes, because when I have conversations, or when I do keynote speaks, or when I do things like what we're doing now, and I mention what I do, all of a sudden a market opens, because someone turns around and says, well, hold on a second now, why isn't that here? Why can't we get that here? So that leads me on to exactly who it is that we're looking for with partners. I mean, I'm ultimately looking for anyone that wants to import and retail, or import and wholesale. So, we have a brand, and it's a global brand, and we are looking at getting it out there. Now, it's not that we wouldn't white label, but the bottom line is that I have a product that is so unique that if I create a white label, I automatically create a competitor for it.
Yeah, exactly.
So and it's a global brand that we're building up. So it's not a no, it's just the juice has to be worth the squeeze if I'm going to create in a particular area or a geographic area competition against what is in essence our own brand. So and we're looking for people that are interested in importing this and getting it out there. And because it sits in the cosmetic space and it's not pharma, it makes things a lot easier. Now, there are specific things that we can't make claims on. We understand that, but we're actually undergoing at the moment discussions with the British MHRA to allow us to have it as a herbal remedy, and therefore we can explain certain things. But everyone kind of knows that CBD is good for you. They're not entirely sure why. We bring the educational piece as well about the fact that most people don't even understand that they have an endocannabinoid system. They've got specific receptors in their nervous system that are designed by nature to absorb these cannabinoids. Why? Because it grew naturally, and we used to walk around and live in caves, and we've got those things inside us that allow us to utilize it, and it knows what to do. So what I'm really looking for is to generate roads with partners, with people that would say, God, that's something that's really interesting. I'd like to import that in. And it's very simple, a transactional deal. We will make it, we will manufacture it, we will export it, and you can sell it inside your area. And we support that with marketing support and pricing, et cetera, et cetera. So it's quite a simple transactional kind of deal that we're looking for.
So thank you, Farard. Thank you very much. I know there's going to be quite a few questions and comments as we move along, and we do have some to get to, but I do want to get to Ferbie as well. So Ferbie, please share with us a little bit about, you mentioned the products that you work in, but share with us a little bit about your business and where you're exporting to, if you are already, or where you would like to be going. And if you've used, any of the trade and investment resources that we've touched on today.
Okay. So basically, as I said in the beginning, my company deals in export of agri-commodities such as cashew nuts, sesame, cola nuts, anything that is under the agri-commodities umbrella, as well as timber and wood products. Yes, I have attended some programs by She Trades, which is an ITC organization program in conjunction with Ghana Export Promotion Authority, as well as an NGO called Impact for Hair, run from USA, but headquartered in Nigeria. Yes, so basically I've been exporting to Vietnam, India, and China. And I'm looking forward to navigating Europe and North America. But I realized that an African doing business in Africa, trying to enter the European and North American market is a little bit difficult because there's a little bit of low trust for, should I say, there's low trust for product or business people coming directly from Africa. The reason why I say this is I had the opportunity to deal with a company from Canada. I wanted to supply them blackwood, ebony. And they told me that they can't buy from me because they're already buying from a company in Germany. And I said, wow, Germany doesn't have ebony. It's Africa, Ghana that has ebony. So how come you are buying from Germany? Then I realized that what happens is the North Americans have companies in Europe or trade offices in Europe that the trade offices buy from Africa and then they ship to North America and Canada. So some of these companies don't deal directly with.
Well, I think we'll wait just a few seconds, but I think I know where Ferbie was going with this. And I think this is one of the reasons why, we really didn't touch on this at all. But perhaps in our next conversation, we will, which is e-commerce, and I think this is why e-commerce is so vital to the trade process, because for better or worse, it does somewhat sidestep, middlemen. And I think that's where Ferbie was going with this. And Ferbie, I hope you can join us again, but we'll come back to you when you're able to get back on. But we do have two questions, and interestingly enough, they're both focused around cultural factors. So the first question is from Alexandra. So thank you for asking the question, Alexandra. Are there any cultural factors unique to the UK and Africa that cause you to change your exporting strategies compared to other areas of the world? I think that would have been perfect for Ferbie, but anyone else that can answer this question, and Agnes and Steve, you may be the best folks.
So I'll come in on the UK side.
Sure.
I don't think there's any cultural factors in the UK that changes how UK companies export to Africa. The rules of engagement are very clear. You need to build up relationships in the markets. What I am seeing in Francophone Africa is a very strong desire for those countries to rebalance their trade partnerships such that they no longer have a dominant trade partner. And that is creating a lot of opportunities in many markets, certainly in West Africa at the moment. But exporting strategies really need to be focused about understanding who is your demographic you're selling to, is the product or service you're offering responding to the solutions that those buyers are looking for, and then having the relationships on the grounds to help you navigate local risks that can be managed better by local partners than foreign people flying in and out trying to do business.
Okay. Yes, great. And Agnes, anything to add to that? Are there any cultural factors unique to the UK and Africa that cause you to change your exporting strategies compared to other areas of the world? I know you'll be speaking from within an African country, but if you would like to chime in on this.
Okay, thank you. I also agree with Steve that trade, the rules are the same. Rules of engagement are basically the same. The standards are the same for every product. You either meet the standards or you don't. Just a little bit that sometimes in Africa, sometimes the family system is a bit important, and sometimes you just have to understand it. It's not that it will change your strategy, but understand that families are a bit important in Africa. So sometimes when you are dealing with a business, particularly the SMEs, you need to bear that in mind. And also, sometimes, now it's changing, but in the past, it used to be like time. Sometimes you find that some businesses are not that punctual, but over time, people are beginning to know that there must be one rule of engagement for businesses. So people are learning it much more than before. In the past, it was an issue, but now it's not an issue. I just want to also request that you can also begin to look at the AFTA or that Africa Continental Free Trade Market. It is very big. It's going to be the biggest trading area when it is fully implemented. Yes. And so as you consider, like Farard, as you consider going to India and the US as your next market, you can also think about Africa. It is a big market here, you are here. And even thinking about partnerships, I did send you a note about like shea butter, for example. It could be, you can think about it as, let's say, a base for one of your cosmetics. So the African market is big and ready. And it could also, you can also think about it in coming up with your new export strategies. But basically, the rules of engagement are the same everywhere.
Yeah. So I think where the cultural element, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the cultural element really comes in is in perhaps how you're marketing and actually consumer behavior and purchasing behavior. So perhaps that's where the cultural factor is really a little bit more prominent. And so to that end, Dana from Global Chamber Atlanta, head of Global Chamber Atlanta, is asking similarly, for those in West Africa, what are some cultural considerations for doing business in West Africa for American women? You may have already answered it, that the rules of engagement are pretty much the same, but do you think that there's any kind of differentiation that needs to be made here?
Oh, well, not really. But in the last couple of years, a lot of African women are becoming very health conscious. And so in terms of consumer buying behavior, they are looking at products with a lot of, let's say, health benefits. So like our shea butter that I just spoke about, it is becoming a very important product for a lot of African women. And, in the past, most African women would keep like relaxed hair now, and most people are going natural. So they are focusing more on, natural ingredients in our buying patterns. And also said that the family is also an important issue for us. So when people are buying, they tend to buy maybe, I'm talking about retailing, people tend to buy maybe a lot more. And then the packaging sizes are sometimes bigger. If I compare it to, let's say, the UK, where you have smaller sizes in terms of packaging, but because we often deal with families, a lot of the time you find out that things are packaged in bigger volumes and in bigger packages. I remember years ago when we started assessing the US market with black soap and then shea butter, we realized that our packages were too big for the market, because that was the African concept. We need to package them in big containers. So we were advised by a potential investor that we should make smaller packages if we want to come to, let's say, the US market. But in Africa, for example, in terms of buying, people will want to take the family into consideration in whatever they are purchasing. And as I said, the African woman is now very health conscious in what they take in and what they put on their skin and hair. So it could be an opportunity for anyone trying to, yes.
Thank you, Agnes. Thank you. So Ferbie is back. I want to give her an opportunity to finish her thought. Ferbie, you actually opened the door for us to also mention that, this is where potentially e-commerce could be a real solution, because, as you mentioned, there are many times middlemen to, certain markets. So I wanted you to be able to finish your thought.
Yes, please. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be back. So basically, what I find in trying to do business with the North Americans and the Europeans is the difference between them and the Asians is, when you want to do business with a company in Europe, the payment term, they will say, okay, you know what, if you can supply us this according to this specification, let's transact according to letter of credit. But the problem is most African banks cannot handle letters of credit. They really don't understand it. So it makes the process long and cumbersome for the supplier. Mm-hmm. And if, let's say, you are supposed to ship something in a month's time, and they are supposed to send the documents to the buyer in Europe according to documentary collection, the African banks or the Ghanaian banks are so slow that by the time they send the document, perhaps the product has already reached the destination port. Mm-hmm. So then getting your payment, the payment takes quite a long time before you get it, before you turn over, before you continue the business. Yeah. And I also noticed that we don't have banks that support exports in Ghana here, in the whole of the West African sub-region, because sometimes we need banks to step in to help us with export financing, because there's a contract that is ready, is verified, but then there's no bank to finance it. And a lot of the companies here in Ghana that are coming up with exports, they are not big companies, you understand, they are SMEs. And sometimes they need export financing to be able to fulfill the orders to these European counterparts. But the good side of working with the Asians, exporting to Vietnam, India, China is some of them have sent representatives down here. So when you want to do business with them, you sign the contract, they would actually pre-finance the business. Mm-hmm. You understand?
Interesting.
They'll pre-finance the business, or they'll give you a particular percentage. So then you can go do the work. When you deliver to the port, you show them the bill of lading. They can pay you for the rest they'll give you the rest of the money that's left. But if I want to transact with an European or somebody from the UK, and I say, okay, you know what, this costs this, you have to give me a percentage, it's going to look like, is she trying to scam me or something?
Yeah, there are different perceptions to,
there's a different perception to that. Yeah. But I realized that if somebody from Europe wants to purchase something in China or wants to purchase something in another European country, they are okay with advancing maybe some amount of money, you understand, as opposed to advancing it to somebody in Ghana here. So I think that, as I'm saying, there's a low trust environment for businesses coming out of Ghana, West Africa, because of maybe past experiences. Yeah, so this is one thing that I've noticed. And aside that, sometimes the government regulations in Ghana can make things tough. Like, there are certain types of timber that we export to Asia in a particular size. Then the government will come and say, timber exporters should no longer export timber of this particular size. They should export it in another size. But then it doesn't tailor to the market. And we exporters here in Ghana, timber exporters, cannot abide by that regulation because we don't have the industries that support that particular the particular size of product that the government is asking us to export. So I realize that sometimes the government doesn't have, if I should say, first-hand information on what's going on in the market on the field. So the regulations that they pass does not tally with the reality on the ground, and it makes things difficult for exporters sometimes.
Yes. And I think that's where although there are many trade and investment offices are government backed, I think this is where the value of connecting with a trade and investment office where you want to export to is also really valuable. Just like, somebody looking to go to Ghana will potentially get in touch with Agnes. I think that's where there's some value in working with these types of organizations in addition to, the government organizations. So, there are, and they're not all government backed. There are a number that are also independent or have some partnership with the government. And so they're able to provide a little bit more up-to-date information. So I would say, Ferbie, if you haven't talked to Agnes yet, you should definitely do that. And we have just a few minutes left. This could certainly go on for another hour. But I recognize that there are a couple of comments or questions. David Knight has asked a question, and I think that's probably for Farard. And so I would encourage the two of you to connect as well and have that conversation about CBD products. And I think we have a number of comments here. So I know Stephen has to go. Thank you very much, Stephen, for joining us. I do want to just end the conversation with just letting you know that, a little bit about the Startup Suite, which we're offering in conjunction with Global Chamber. It is a program, it's an accelerated program to help companies launch either their brand, their product, or their service into global markets from a marketing perspective. So we do a lot of creative work, but then also strategy as well. And so just want to offer that. We do provide Global Chamber members a little bit of a discount. So feel free to check us out. I've included my information in the chat as well. But I think this is a really important and interesting topic. I think people need to understand what kinds of resources investment and trade offices provide and how to best utilize them and what kind of information you can get from them. So with that, Cesar, I think we are, towards the end of our time here.
That's right. Thank you very much, Kuntal, and thanks for the 4 speakers. This was an interesting conversation. So I think that's similar to what we were planning in terms of having the exporters, the ones who are really like getting to other places and getting the things done, and then the organizations that are helping them aside. So I really want to thank you, Kuntal, and just let everyone else know that we have a second part of this next week, which will be covering Australia and Malaysia. So it's going to be, I believe, something around 8 p.m. Eastern time, so 5 p.m. Pacific. So probably not a good time for the people in the UK and Ghana. But I mean, just in case, you can register, accept the invitation, and you will get the recording afterwards. So it's going to be a similar one with exporters and trade organizations. So we're looking forward to it. And if any of you are interested to connect with any of the speakers or to connect with someone else you saw in the chat and you haven't been able to connect, feel free to reach out to me. Happy to help.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for attending. This was fantastic. Thank you, and have a great day or evening wherever you are. And we hope to see you next time. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
Cesar.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.